and let us all do we can to build a better future.
It's the Squad versus the Justice Democrats. The Justice Democrats played a critical role in electing the Squad. Now we'll have to do more with less. Hold on. If I'm going to laugh, I'm going to do it right. Taking off the headphones. Taking off the headphones. 3, 2, 1. Hey, you think I'm making up the title? No, this is from HuffPost. This is from HuffPost. Hang on, because it's funny. It's funny to me. All the Justice Democrats. A progressive powerhouse surprise layoffs feels concerns about the left's future. Hang on. If I'm going to laugh again, I'm going to do it right again. Hang on. Laugh with me, everybody. I can see some liberals saying, "Kid, it's not funny." I can see some progressives saying, "Hey, man, this is not funny, man. Those people have jobs, man." The left is caring about things. Justice Democrats cares. Justice Democrats are going to do the right thing. I don't care. I don't care. Hang on, let's get into it. Oh, look, it's AOC. It's AOC. From 2018 to 2020, the activist left experienced something of an electoral renaissance. Oh my God. That's so pathetic. It started, of course, with AOC, then an obscure primary challenger, ousted Representative Joe Crowley, the chair of the House Democratic Caucus. The scope of the change was most evident, though, in how her win and the victories of other left-wing candidates would jointly come to be known as the Squad. That was the nickname given by Hagbag Nancy to them. The Squad is not the Squad. Pushed many mainstream Democrats, including President Joe Biden, to the left. Mainstream Democrats and President Joe Biden to the... Who wrote this article? Daniel Marins. Okay. Came out August 3rd at 8 a.m. The rent was due. This article is titled "The Rent Was Due." The rent was due. This is blowing up smoke up somebody's wazoo. That ideological shift was in turn all the more remarkable because it propelled the Justice Democrats, a small millennial-run group that emerged from the ashes of Senator Bernie Sanders' first presidential run, to recruit, consult, and if necessary, finance progressive primary challengers. Thank you, Cenk and Kyle, for creating that Frankenstein. But Cenk, Kyle, your baby, it's dying. Just over 6 years since its founding, however, Justice Democrats' opposition is more organized while its mission is more muddled and its coffers depleted. Well, gee, maybe it's because people finally caught on to the scam. You ever think about that, hot shots? Faces of shorter funds, the group laid off 9 of its 20 staff members in mid-July, a move that took many prominent progressives by surprise. On Capitol Hill and elsewhere, those progressives are anxious about what the smaller Justice Democrat as a group, as a JD, as it's affectionately known, could mean for the left as a whole. It means nothing. The Justice Democrats ain't going to do crap, okay? Without threat of a primary and a weakening of Justice Democrats, we go back to corporate interests and lack of accountability from the progressive movement. A progressive senior House aide who requested anonymity to speak freely told HuffPost. So you know what that means? AOC is going to be living it up. More gala events. That means she could be bought and not face scrutiny anymore. Even though there are so many activists and progressive warriors who want to give a shield wall of protection to her. Let's continue on. But a large swathe of the left is united in its grief over Justice Democrats' declining fortune. There is a broad disagreement about the causes of the problem and the right kind of solutions. Some allies point to the effect of an overall decline in political donations that has hit the left particularly hard, even as groups dedicated to fighting progressives have ramped up their spending. Other progressives point to big liberal funders' reluctance to finance a group dedicated to challenging incumbents, not least under a Democratic president to whom some on the left give high marks. And they wonder why they're losing donations. They wonder why they're losing donations. All right. And they're wondering why. They're wondering why. So pathetic. So pathetic of the Democrats. So we continue on. The group's critics, however, argue the left has failed to organize. Oh, you think? The group has. Hold on. Listen to this. Listen to this. This is hilarious because I read this article, but sometimes when I reread something, it's just like, oh my God, I forgot that was so stupid. Like my brain literally forgot it. That's how stupid this article is. The rent was due. The group's critics, however, argue that the left has failed to organize its incumbents on Capitol Hill or develop a coherent strategy for extracting concessions from Biden and other Democratic leaders. Well, they didn't do jack. Cory Bush is writing a book. AOC is going to Met Gala events. Pramila Jayapal is just doing nothing, just farting in the wind. They also wonder why Justice Democrats did not go public sooner about the scope of its financial troubles. Because they got a grift going on, baby. That's why. Cenk, Kyle, your baby's floundering. By the way, look, again, I'm going to be very clear here. In 2018, when Cenk and Kyle were kicked out of Justice Democrats, we were against it because, look, they were doing like a Me Too, SJW attack towards Cenk, right? Because of, the time he used to be a Republican. And it's like, okay, fine. You're digging up articles he wrote years ago, but he's trying to do a Justice Democrat thing. But again, they kicked him out. They kicked him out. Hey, Justice Democrats, I think you need a large platform. But oh, wait. Working with you guys is toxic. I'm eating it up. I'm laughing at the Justice Democrats. We'll have the bear eat us and change the bear from the inside. The central question of all these analysis, though, is whether the contraction is a sign of natural growing pains for the progressive movement or evidence of its deeper decline. It's going under. Alexandra Rojas, executive director of Justice Ground, said that the group has done its best to exhaust all resources and avenues of support before deciding on layoffs. So that's the face. That's the lady who said, hey, you're fired. Get out of here. I got this grift going on. Can't share this grift with everybody. Sudden changes in grassroots giving. Well, okay. There's plenty of evidence to support Justice Democrats' claim that it's one of the many victims of nationwide decline in political giving. Well, yeah, because people are struggling. The economy's not recovering there, my lovelies. Thus far in this election cycle, political donations, small and large, have decreased across the board. A state of affairs that campaign finance insiders attribute to, among other things, kind of exhaustion after Donald Trump's presidency and the cooling of the stock market that has struck a blow to some well-heeled donors. Asset wealth, Planned Parenthood, and Sierra Club, pillars of center-left infrastructure, have laid off significant percentages of their staffs this year. Of course, because listen. Activists, social justice warriors. Listen, I don't need to tell you how to do your job, but if you're going to be a grifter, right, you should have secretly been hoping for Trump to get reelected in 2020. And I'll tell you why, because then you could have been ramping up those donations, baby. People would have been going for it. Hell, you guys need Trump to win 2024 to keep your books and everything else operational. Without Trump, you guys are irrelevant. It's what I have said before on this show. Donald Trump is the biggest job producer, especially in the social justice warrior industrial complex. This is funny to me. And I want to keep on laughing because it is funny. It is funny. A newer crop of insurgent progressive groups, which lack the same levels of support from big donors, have sustained a proportionally even bigger hit. The Sunrise Movement, a joke of a group, a climate action group closely aligned with Justice Democrats that was influential in the 2020 Democratic primary, began laying off 35% of its 100-person staff in April. Ha! Laugh with me, my lovelies. And Middle Seed, a digital fundraising firm behind many progressive success stories, laid off 1/3 of its staff earlier this year, though it has grown its workforce since then. We are vulnerable to sudden changes in grassroots giving. I know. See, look, Again, Alexandria Rojas says the ebbs and flows for us are bigger. Just like when AOC, that there are ebbs and flows, the macro, the micro machines, the macaroni and cheese, all of that good stuff. Although the details of Just Democrats fundraising this year are not yet available, the group told HuffPost that 62% of its donations this year were in increments of less than $200. That's a lot of money. Oof. I don't know. Less than $200. It costs $300 just to go outside. In the 2020 election cycle, Justice Democrats PAC, a hybrid spending entity that houses the group's central operations, indeed raised about $1.9 million from donations of less than $200, compared to the $1.6 million in larger donations, according to its end of 2022 report to the Federal Election Commission. What's more, unlike some progressive groups with financial problems, the salaries of Justice Democrats top staff members are quite modest. Rojas earned about $81,000 in pay from the group's PAC in 2022. The backlash bill comes due in addition to a dying up of grassroots donation. Rojas told HuffPost that a surge in spending against Justice Democrats candidates is forcing the group to subsist on a leaner budget. The primaries have gotten more expensive, so we had to respond to that. Well, gee, Justice Democrats, I remember when you guys were first initiated, how also there was a talk of you supporting third parties. Maybe instead of going to bed with the Democratic Party and taking it up the wazoo, maybe you should have been, I don't know, protecting yourselves a little bit more. Now you're stuck with that DNC STD. Ugh, gross. In the 2022 election cycle, parts of the Democratic establishment and other entities hostile to Justice Democrats' agenda fully mobilized to beat back the group's gains. Remember when AOC donated to corporate donors and corporate Democrats? I do, and so does Petridge Farm. A dark money group affiliated with the Democratic Party leaders provided critical funding for Representative Danny Davis to ward off close challenge from Keena Collins, who was backed by Justice Democrats. Mainstream Democrats, a super PAC bankrolled by LinkedIn co-founder and Democratic donor Reid Hoffman, helped Rep. Henry Keeler narrowly beat Justice Democrats attorney Jessica Cisneros. And a newly created super PAC aligned with American Israel Public Affairs Committee, surprise, a right-leaning group that seeks to ensure unconditional support for Israel, spent copiously against left-leaning Democratic candidates. In 2022, the group's super PAC spent nearly $4 million trying to defeat then State Rep. Summer Lee, a Justice Democrats candidate, in an open Pennsylvania seat in both the primary and the general election. As part of a multi-million-dollar progressive ad blitz that helped now U.S. Representative Lee pull out a win, Justice Democrats Super PAC spent alone $1.1 million on her behalf. That's out of the $2.4 million in super PAC spending that Justice Democrats invested overall in the 2022 election cycle, which was itself not a dramatic increase over the nearly $2.3 million it devoted for that purpose in the 2020 cycle. Listen, Justice Democrats, I'm going to let you on some inside baseball. Because, you know, I've tried to reach out to the Justice Democrats in the past. I have. I've tried. But, you know, take, for example, in Illinois, we have the State Central Committee. I believe that's what it's called. And these are the people who pick who not only the next leader of the Democratic Party will be in the state of Illinois, but also they're like a key infrastructure. Imagine, Justice Democrats, if you could take over a key seat at a local level that very few people know about. I don't know. You could make a progressive change in Illinois. That's something you could do. Maybe you could go for much more smaller local seats that actually have positions of power that a lot of people don't know too much about. Maybe you could change the foundations by maybe working smarter and not harder. I don't know, Justice Democrats. I don't know. It's kind of funny. But hey, you want to know what's really funny? Remember this guy? So Cenk Uygur. Top problem for Justice Democrats and progressive legislators is that they don't even realize they failed during the Biden years. But Cenk, we had to vote for Biden. That's what you said. Remember when forced to vote was a bad idea? And we had to keep our powder dry? And that AOC and the squad were our best people we had? We told our voters that policies like $15 minimum wage were the bare minimum and then didn't even fight for it. Almost no policy wins, and they think they did great. Cenk, that's not what you said in 2021. Because what happened in 2021? You had the Force the Vote for Medicare for All. You had the March for Medicare for All. You had a 3-day General Strike Summit meeting hosted by Revolutionary Blackout Network. And you had the fight for $15 minimum wage that was given a thumbs down by Senator Kristen Sinema and 7 other U.S. Senate Democrats. And what did the squad, what did AOC, what did the Justice Democrats do? Nothing. Because you, Jank, Sammy Boy Cedar, and the other prominent people in larger independent media decided to say, no, we can't shake the apple cart or Kevin McCarthy will become Speaker of the House. Oh, no. Anyways, continuing on, here's another tweet from Janky. Even this quote shows you what's wrong. Who is they? AOC. It's supposed to be a Justice Democrat, not just endorsed by them. She's supposed to lead and work with the group on strategy and get progressive priorities passed. Her quote makes it seem like she's almost a neutral observer. Here's a quote from AOC. I'm confident they'll make it through this transition and continue to be successful in the future. So you see, when you see a quote like that from AOC, you know what that means? She's like, I like you, but I see you only as a brother or a friend. She put Justice Democrats in the friend zone. You can't date her. You just can't date her. Don't do it. Don't date her. It ain't going to work out. And AOC has moved on. She's got gala events and has to be on the cover of Vanity Fair. So I want to pull up another aspect of this article. Structural obstacles. Because this article is pretty long, but hey, the rent was due, so I hope you got paid. Structural obstacles. Indeed, a fundamental challenge for Justice Democrats is that many of the big donors who give to liberal candidates, nonprofits, and political action committees are simply not as eager as their right-wing counterparts to fund a group explicitly committed to ousting moderate Democrats in primaries. It's a real failure of the progressive funder establishment that one of the most effective, powerful, important organizations in America has never gotten an investment that it deserves, said Max Berger, a former political director of Justice Democrats. Progressives need to treat this as a scandal. No, we don't. I don't have to treat this like a scandal. I'm treating this like a joke because it's funny to me. Justice Democrats didn't deliver. Justice Democrats is a hypocritical organization. And Justice Democrats gave us politicians that turned out to be just Democrats. That was pretty clever what I said there. Progressive support of Justice Democrats' mission are at odds over exactly why that investment has never materialized and whether it's something that can be overcome even in the most ideal circumstances. Well, because one, the orange boogeyman is gone. Number two, the Justice Democrats that are in office, the progressive heavyweights, turned out to be just Democrats. Some factors keeping wealthy progressives on the sidelines might be specific to the current movement, according to people familiar with their giving patterns. In contrast, in recent years, when climate and racial justice movements fueled electoral politics, the biggest social conflict currently sweeping the country is being driven by labor unions engaged in contract disputes with management. Those fights typically lack an immediate link to policy in Congress that might become a factor in Democratic primaries. Boy, oh boy, it sure would be a shame that if these railroad workers who not too long ago threatened to go on strike would be forced to go on strike by Congress, including many leading Democrat lawmakers, including AOC. Am I wrong here? Biden also plans to surprise many progressive donors with his governing style. Oh, God. This again. Including passage of Climate-Focused Inflation Reduction Act and its attempt to unilaterally cancel up to $20,000 of student debt. Gannapy thinks that this kind of shift from Biden makes challenging the establishment feel less urgent. Well, because when you have people like Jank or other sycophants that carry water for the Democrats and AOC and Bernie Sanders and say, just calm down, everything will be fine, eventually people are going to lose interest. Remember this whole talk about raising the ruckus? Remember this whole talk about, changing things? I remember. When there's a big gap between where the president is on legislative priorities, and where the left is, like there was under the Obama administration, it becomes really important for the left to take on a more confrontational posture. But comparing, for example, the role of single-payer advocacy groups, including the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, also known as Romney Care, which came out of the Heritage Foundation, I just had to put that in there, fights versus the role of groups like Sunrise Movement in the Inflation Reduction Act process, it's night and day. I generally think the White House and the Biden campaign see progressives as part of their coalition, and that counts for something. Hey, progressives, they see you as part of their coalition. Now shut up and vote harder, poor people. Instead, the biggest obstacle to passage of more progressive legislation, many progressives argue, was the narrowness of Democrats' majorities in the House and Senate in 2021 and 2022, more than the existence of conservative Democrats. Democrats' small margin are to blame for empowering Senator Joe Manchin and others to obstruct Biden's agenda these progressives maintain. Or maybe it's because Biden didn't want to do any of those progressive things. Did you ever think about that? And that Joe Manchin was given his marching orders to be the obstructionist, to be the bad guy. Did you ever think about that? Progressives, big brain people, Justice Democrats? Yeah, probably not. You didn't. The solution to that problem, some progressive donors conclude, is select. Hey, listen to this one. I hope you're sitting back. Hang on. We got to laugh together. The solution to that problem, some progressive donors conclude, is to elect more Democrats rather than fund primary challenges to the Democrats who are already there. So just vote for the establishment Democrats, you stupid poor people. That's all you got to do. Vote harder for the Democrats. That's all you have to do. That's all you got to do. Stop thinking. Stop asking questions. Just vote harder. Donors' focus on ousting Republicans has narrowly increased now that Republicans control the House, and Democrats are gearing up to try and retake the chamber in November of 2024. So guess what? You don't have to worry about anything anymore. Just vote harder, poor people. Still, other progressive insiders maintain that wealthy donors are often inherently less radical due to their material interests and social worlds. They might be less willing to embrace third-rail issues like U.S.-Israeli policy. Not going to happen. Where the gap between the Democratic establishment and grassroots left is generally the widest. It's much harder to question the American empire than it is to question American inequality, the second progressive House aide told. Oh God, Justice Democrats, you're like that person who says, I could change my abusive partner, even though you got a black eye, your wallet's empty, you might have gotten an STD or something like that. But don't worry, the Democratic Party cares about you, because they're going to tell you things you want to hear and then smack you around once you give them that stuff. That's the truth of it. That's the truth of the Democratic Party. The Republican Party is just the same way, too. You vote Democrat or Republican, you're in an abusive relationship. Does this make me a bad person comparing it to that? Yeah, it does. But, hey, Justice Democrats, you're going to learn the hard way. In some cases, just us Democrats might have done more to woo those big donors as a necessity of layoffs loomed. One progressive donor close to Justice Democrats who requested anonymity to preserve professional relationships, told HuffPost that they would have pitched in more if they had been personally notified about the gravity of the situation. Oh, wow. What a bunch of BS. And look, everybody, it's Fat Tony. I mean, Cenk. Oh, my goodness. Again, Cenk Uygur, a popular YouTube host, and co-founder of Justice Democrats, believes the group's financial trouble is a symptom of deeper problems. Cenk, you founded it. Where's Kyle at in all this? You two should get you two should have some lunch. You know, bury the beef. Criticism of the left. Some progressives believe Justice Democrats should not even be trying to solicit donations from rich people, however. One of them is Cenk Uygur, co-founder of Justice Democrats, who's better known as the creator of the Young Turks, a popular progressive YouTube network. Justice Democrats severed ties with him in 2020 after it emerged that he had authorized sexist blog posts in the early 2000s. Hey, Justice Democrats, I bet you wish you had ties to that large network again so that you get word about who you were. I mean, come on, it's tactics 101. You need to get your voice out there, right? Stupid. See, that's what happens when you have something that's thoroughly activist based. They cancel. And people wonder why the progressive movement is dying. We're not a group that should be relying on big donors, he told HuffPost. We're supposed to be a group that raises money from the grassroots. Cenk blamed Justice Democrats for failing to foster a cohesive group of lawmakers capable of holding up high priority bills, such as the American Rescue Plan. Oh, bull. in order to extract progressive policy concessions from Biden and other Democratic leaders if the organization with which he was previously affiliated had created a truly independent left-wing bloc in Congress. Cenk argued that there would be no shortage of grassroots generosity from the organization. They never delivered, Janky. And Dabby Dabs in the live stream chat says, I'm pretty sure it's just ass Democrats. Just ass. But we continue on. We do continue on. We got to continue on. Them having financial trouble is not the problem. It is a consequence of the core problems. Since you didn't fight for anything, there's no hope. Other left-wing personalities with significant audiences, including Brianna Joy Gray, Kyle Kulinski, and Freddie DeBoer, have made similar critiques. The senior House progressive aide conceded that Justice Democrats aligned incumbents lack cohesiveness, so they're not a squad, and did not have regular group meetings with Justice Democrats. Of course they weren't, though how much of that was due to the operation's limited funding is unclear. Again, other than some Israel bills, we never talked about legislation, the senior aide said. There's a perspective that people with Justice Democrats win their race and come to Congress and do their own thing. For her part, Roe has rejected the suggestion that Justice Democrats' Capitol Hill operation had lacked discipline. Of course you lack discipline. Of course you lack discipline. So we're going to stop here for one quick second here. All right? We got to look at the bigger picture. We got to look at the bigger picture here. The Democrats were never, ever, ever going to fight. The Justice Democrats are weak. The Justice Democrats are incompetent. The Justice Democrats lack a backbone. The Justice Democrats lack courage. They don't respect you. Don't you get it? And if you donate to the Justice Democrats, you know what they're going to say? Thanks, sucker. Thanks, sucker. It's pathetic that this has happened. So we continue on. One last time. Sorry to put all of you through this, but it's quite clear to me that the rent was due for this article. We are close in contact with every Justice Democrat, especially around larger moments of our movement. And I know that all of the members keep in close touch with each other on most, if not all, legislative matters. The progressive donor close to Justice Democrats agrees that grassroots donors feel discouraged, but chalks the situation up to marketing problem. Biden would have not passed a climate-focused Inflation Reduction Act had AOC and others not turned the idea of a Green New Deal into a national rallying cry, the donor said. I don't think it's a fault of Justice Democrats that there wasn't a flashy movement that made that clear to people. But whether the main problem is the mission, the marketing, or the money, fixing it could take years of work, Justice Democrat allies warn. Acknowledging that something needs to change might be the place to start. I don't think right now that there is a vehicle for progressive electeds to build collective power. There needs to be, Berger said. Should Justice Democrats be that vehicle? If it's not them, I don't know what it's going to be. Oh, so sad. So sad. But I don't care. I don't care at all. I don't care at all. So let's have democracy in the chat. Let's have democracy in the chat. Type 1 if you think Justice Democrats will be going bankrupt or closing up its operations within this year or next. Type 2 if you think, no, Kit, they're still going to be around. They're going to still be fighting, and we're going to get everything we want. Rainbows and sunshines for all. So pathetic. You really want to make a change? Vote independent, third party. And break away from voting Democrat and Republican. Because, especially if you vote Democrat, all what you'll be getting is just ass Democrats. And that's the truth.